Good morning, America. You're listening to America's Voice Now. This is our second segment. We ended our first segment by in a discussion about the fact that all of this information is out there about elected officials, which means that our government can never be solvent again. In other words, if they know so much about so many that are currently in government, we can't put those people back in power over and over and over again because they have enough dirt and information on them that they can manipulate them and twist this thing to go any way they want forever. And so the question out there for you to answer for yourself is, how do we resolve that problem? How do we make it so that independent individuals can run for office and not be compromised by the information in their past or that these individuals have, whoever they are? I don't care whether it's the NSA or they've got dossiers on somebody. How do you destroy it? You can't. It's never destroyable because the people who they have this information on, somebody, you could get a 10 gigabyte hard drive and store enough information on there to corrupt everybody in Washington.
But, therein lies a solution. Okay, when you're talking about they have information on so many people, you know what? Don't vote for a single incumbent. But the problem there comes in that you have to vote. And when you have an election for Joanne Emerson's seat and less than 15% of the electorate shows up, you're not going to get anything accomplished.
I don't disagree, but here's the problem. We are so far gone as a nation. That's why I say that there are no political solutions here, because in our current format, because anybody that's currently in government has ever run for government, they've already got a file built on. All of that information has to be destroyed. And then citizen legislators have to be willing to step up and say, I promise I'm going to go in there, I'm going to run for 1, maybe 2 terms, and I'm going to voluntarily term limit myself, and then I'm going to go back to being the baker, the lawyer, the candlestick maker, whatever the heck that phrase is. You got to get away from people who are professional career politicians. And on top of that, this nonsense about making $195,000 a year to be a senator and $175,000 a year to be a House member has got to cease, because these people are looking at this like it's a career.
Wait a minute, I was going to sign up for that.
Here's what we need to do. Build a nice, big, multi-story apartment building in Washington, D.C., and everybody lives in it.
Ooh.
If you're going to run in the House and you're going to run in the Senate, you live there. No more, and we pay them $50,000 a year. That's it.
But again, you got to get the electorate out there, okay, and get rid of any incumbent. Anybody that's ever been in there, even for a single term,
exactly.
Boom, out.
Anybody who's ever run before has got to have a period, a cool-off period. Here's how the rules work in the ethics. They call it ethics, but it's really not. If you are a sitting senator or a sitting House of Representatives member, when you leave office, you are not allowed for, I think it's a 5-year window, to become a registered lobbyist. And the reason that they do that is because you can't possibly go into lobbying right after you've left office, and you've still got all your contacts, you've still got all that influence, you still know that, you still know on a personal level, this guy's got a problem this guy's got a drinking problem, that guy over there, he's got a drug problem, this guy, and you can use that information to manipulate legislation to go your way as a lobbyist. You also know who's on the take and how much you've got to pay them. So what they do is they have this 5-year cool-off period where once you leave office, you can't become a lobbyist. Now, there's ways around that, too. People have found loopholes. Joanne Emerson's a perfect example. She didn't become a lobbyist. She took the job as the CEO of the electric co-op. And what does that job entail? Well, her number one role is lobbying. They just don't call her a lobbyist because she doesn't go in with the title lobbyist after her name. She goes in with the title CEO after her name. But she hobnobs with these same senators and congressmen that she knew when she was sitting in the House of Representatives seat in Washington. Now, don't tell me that she doesn't go in there and they're like, oh, Joanne, so nice to see you again. Of course they do. My point is simply this. everyone who's currently in office needs to have a disbarment from public service for the next, say, 10 years until we have had an opportunity to establish a crop of new legislators who don't have these dossiers, don't have the connections and the compromising corruption in their past and history.
And it could be done.
Here's the deal.
It could be done by the voters.
Well, it can, but here's the problem, Mike. We don't have the time to have 2 new elections or 3 new elections. Don't forget, it takes 3 elections to get the Senate replaced because there's one every 2 years. A new Senate election every 2 years. Only 1/3 of the Senate rolls over at a time. So that means it would take us 6 more years to change the Senate out.
But if you can't get more than 15% of the population to show up for an election,
that's my point.
Where's the hope?
That's why we're not ever going to have a political solution to
this. Well, if you can't get more than 15% of the electorate to show up for an election, how are you going to get 20 million people to show up in Washington, D.C.? They won't go 30 miles to vote. Wow, who the hell's going all the way to Washington, D.C.?
I'm going to tell you, I'm going to answer your question.
Okay.
You're not going to get them to show up in our present state. It's going to take a complete and utter collapse into anarchy before this nation decides to make a move to fix itself.
Isn't that sad?
That's disgusting, but it's the truth. This nation is going to have to descend into the depths of despair before it makes a determined effort to pull itself out. That's the truth. Ladies and gentlemen, that's the one thing nobody in Washington, nobody in the Ministry of Propaganda, nobody else on talk radio wants to tell you. That is the truth. It's going to take a massive collapse of everything that we have known and probably the declaration of martial law before America comes to its senses and awakens. And it's unfortunate, but it's the darned truth.
That's sad.
And the only way that's ever going to get solved when it happens is if America has a plan of action. And that's my point. That's why I've been saying that our Tea Parties, our Libertarian Party, our Constitution Party should be going out there right now, hunting down, finding, interviewing, vetting, qualifying, and approving candidates in advance for the coming collapse so that those people are ready to be brought in and, say, reseated in a new government, the new republic of the United States of America.
Can we keep the same Constitution? Because I kind of like it.
It's absolutely mandatory.
Can we keep the same Bill of Rights?
Absolutely mandatory.
Can we take the 10th Amendment and reset it to what it actually is?
Yes, and here's the first law that they need to pass. That the states are sovereign and independent and have the right to do as they so choose, and that the federal government will never again become another overreaching, overarching tyrant.
And how about a
and they need to put in place the law that's going to allow that to happen. And what that law is going to have to look like is, and it doesn't have to be 1,000 pages. In fact, remember something. The amendment, by the way, they added to the immigration bill, just one amendment is 1,000 pages.
How are you supposed to keep up with that?
You can't. That's the point. They don't want you to keep up with it. They know no one's going to read it. Here's what you've got. You've got a group of founders who sat down and haggled for years, and came up with 6 pages that ruled the country for the first 150 years. And now you've got these corrupted and compromised individuals in government who, even with all of this, even with all of that history, they can't pass a bill. I mean, I could pass the immigration bill in a matter of 5 or 6 pages. I mean, you start it with a clause that says the border will be sealed verifiably, and that no new immigration action will be taken on the existing illegals within the country until everyone that's in the nation has registered, and they will have a 6-month window in which to do so. And if they haven't registered within that 6 months, I don't care how deeply rooted you are in the nation, we grab you and we throw you back across the border.
Which has been done before.
And we've got a border that has a fence over here and a 200-yard swath of ground full of landmines and another fence on this side. I'm tired of hearing, well, the higher you build a fence, that stupid guy who comes on Fox News all the time, you build a higher fence, they'll just build a bigger ladder. They'll dig a deeper tunnel. Let me tell you something, sport. We got these things called claymores, okay? And you can't bridge a 200-foot gap full of claymores. I've had it, and I think most of America has too. And you know what? We've got a small minority of these liberal bleeding heart pukes out there who are screaming bloody murder that they've got to have it their way. They are absolutely in the minority. If you were to actually be able to pull a poll together that asked every single American, should we have a border that is verifiably sealed and has a way in which illegal immigration can be ceased and legal immigration can be enabled properly, we would have everyone would agree to that.
Well, and
at least the vast majority, without doubt.
But the interesting.
But you see, these people are passing everything they pass, Mike. Every piece of this legislation is full of loopholes so big that you could drive a state through it, not a truck.
Oh, I'm in agreement. But one of the biggest problems that you have with immigration legislation is that the biggest problem that we have done to ourselves is 15,000 visa overstays, okay, of people from non-friendly Middle Eastern countries.
Agreed.
And we've done it to ourselves.
That's my point. All of this needs to be revamped. And the only way you're ever going to do it is getting everybody out who is currently in and putting a moratorium on them ever running again for the next decade. And saying, we're starting over, but we're starting over with citizen legislators who are actually going to have a short, brief stint where they're going to come in, do their civic duty, and then go home. And there's no money in it, so don't come here thinking that you're going to make a fortune at this.
Vote. You got to vote.
We'll be back in a minute.
Kim Commando, a.k.a. the Digital Goddess, keeps you plugged in with a daily feature, Kim Commando's Digital Minute. This segment keeps you informed with what's going on in the technology world, along with new tips and tricks to use at home to improve those computer skills. Catch Commando at 7:22 a.m. during Cooper & Company on the Ozark's Best News Talk. If the feature has you craving more, join Kim, the Digital Goddess, Saturdays from noon to 3 on the Ozark's Best News Talk, 107.1 The Point.
Out of 365 days a year, we celebrate holidays, anniversaries, and other important days. But there is one day you look forward to, your birthday.
I wanna wish you a happy birthday.
Ryan's Steakhouse of West Plains is proud to bring you the Birthday Club weekday mornings with Cooper & Company. Our daily winner receives one buffet and a drink to Ryan. Just call your birthdays in weekday mornings with Cooper & Company at 255-0427. Brought to you by Ryan's and the Ozark's Best News Talk.
And happy birthday to you. Cha-cha-cha-cha.
So you see, here's the real problem, people. With our current crop, you see, the whole crop has been tainted. And we need to dismantle and throw the crop out and know that, you know, in this case, we actually got to throw the baby out with the bathwater.
Was that crop, C-R-O-P?
Yes.
Okay, let's check it.
Not the baby called the Constitution and the Bill of Rights. That baby we keep. It's the dirt that's floating to the top of the water. We've got to get rid of it. And the only way to get rid of it is to completely remove everybody who is in power and has authority. And by the way, that's not limited to politicians. This has to be these national agencies, these administrative agencies, which are extra constitutional in their nature. They must be disbanded. That place in Utah needs to be dismantled. The 23 other facilities they have that are similar to it, dismantled.
Wait a minute. Don't dismantle it, okay? That place in Utah would make a great place for paintball.
Well, either that or it could be a nice holding tank for a bunch of corrupted senators and congressmen.
They got to have someplace to hang out.
Well, we could hold them there for the 10 years that they're required to stay out of office. Here's my problem, people. And I'm talking about everybody. I'm talking about the senators' aides, their assistants, all these people in the Department of State. This thing has to be such a clean sweep that there is nothing left. That this has to be like a complete flushing of the system.
So I told you about.
I get it. A complete flush. That's what Mike read in the first segment. A complete flush of the system. Because anything less than that will only lead us back to this place we're at today. Maybe it'll put it off for 10 or 20 or 50 or maybe even another 100 years. But again, we will end up back in this position again.
I'll bet you the people down at who did you just do the website for? Why is that?
Ozark Mountain Survival, Self-Reliance.
I'll bet you that
OzarkSurvivalGear.com.
I'll bet you OzarkSurvivalGear.com has an appropriate herbal tea, okay, to take care of exactly what you're talking about. That's right.
It's called the DC Colonic.
It should be like a special, you know.
There you go.
The DC Colonic.
Well, here's the problem. Unless we do a clean sweep, we'll end up right back here. And so this has to be such a massive, and that's why I say it has to be massive, peaceful, civil disobedience, an uprising of the people. A peaceful civil one. I'm not suggesting that we go to war and march on Washington with guns cocked and locked and ready to rock.
No benefit in that.
There's no benefit in that, because that, ladies and gentlemen, that is the ultimate. That will guarantee the ultimate destruction of our republic. You see, again, the Second Amendment is the principle of mutually assured destruction. That is a last resort when all else has failed. But we do have an opportunity to rise up as citizens and say, we own this country. We are the bosses. We're firing every single one of you. We're firing all your aides, all your assistants. We're firing everybody in the Department of State. We're firing everybody in the Department of Agriculture. We're firing everybody. We're blowing all your old laws away. We're taking all of this free this, free that, and we're deleting it. I get it. Everybody's going to scream, well, that's not fair. I live on that. Well, guess what? If you insist on having that which has made your life so easy, I have to tell you, you are contributing because these people are feeding off of you and your dependence. That's the simple truth, people. Nobody wants to say it. Nobody wants to hear it. But I'm going to tell you. If you consistently sit here, I heard a guy the other day say on a radio program, well, you know, there's a benefit to unemployment. You can sit home and play your video games. You got to be flipping kidding me to think like that.
Oh, those are the 99ers.
That is unbelievable and unconscionable even to have that thought and find that an acceptable thing to even say, much less think. I'm stunned.
Vote.
You see, here's the problem. America has become complacent and has fallen asleep at the wheel. But you're at the wheel of a vehicle that is doing 100 miles an hour down a crowded street, and you're not even perceiving of the havoc that you're leaving in your wake. And what we must do is awaken and slam on the brakes and bring that vehicle to a screeching halt. It cannot be that we slow it down and bring it down to 50. That's not going to solve the problem. The street is full of children still. And the car is just as out of control at 50 as it is at 100. The car needs to be brought to a screeching halt. And the only way to do that is to take everybody who's involved and remove them from office. For a 10-year window, you can never run again. For a 10-year window, you are barred from public service. Go be a lawyer. Go be a shopkeeper. Go run a business. See how good you are at running a business, because clearly you couldn't manage money when you were in government. Let's see how you do in business. Let's see how you do trying to run an industry. See if you can get a job now from the head of GE, who panders and gives the we're not worthy bow to you every time he sees you in Congress. But suddenly, when you're out and you have no hope of getting back in for another 10 years, he won't even answer your phone call. He wouldn't give you a job as the mail clerk because he knows that you're corrupt and you're incompetent, and he won't touch you with a 10-foot pole. Think about that, America, because that is the simple truth. These people are incompetent and they are inept. And the only reason they're surviving right now is because they've got power that they can ride the tail of. If we don't remove them, with a plan, I might add, to restore this republic in a functional manner with citizen legislators who don't have all of this baggage and corruption behind them. See, here's the deal. If the NSA truly has all this data, and there's no reason for us to believe at this point they don't, they know that Congressman so-and-so has taken a bribe. And so now he takes more bribes to cover up the fact that they already know he's taken one bribe. He's easily compromised. Well, look, we've got a photograph of you taking that $5,000 in a paper bag. So here's the deal. You're either going to vote this way on this bill, or we're going to spill the beans that you took a bribe. You see, we can't have that anymore. And that's why not only should all this data be destroyed, but everybody in current position, whether, and I don't care whether it's the ambassadors to foreign nations, I don't care whether it is, listen, we are a nation of 300 million people. Are you telling me that we can't find 5,000 good Americans? I don't believe that. Are you telling me we can't find 5,000 good Americans who will go to government, replace the House, replace the Senate, replace this presidency, put a few people in the cabinet around him who are true, wise individuals with truly the benefit of this nation at heart? Replace the, 150 ambassadors around the world. Replace these people in the military who have been corrupted, who are sitting there trying to feather their own nest before the demise of the nation, trying to make sure they're all elbowing and not nudging each other out of the way to make sure that they all got a seat at the table. The table of the rising phoenix of tyranny, ladies and gentlemen, that's what they're vying for. A seat at the table of tyranny. And they're all falling all over themselves trying to make sure that they're chosen. It's like a bunch of kids in 4th grade. Ooh, me, teacher, me, ooh, ooh, ooh. Pick me. I'll do what you say. I'll fire on Americans. I know I'm a general and I swore an oath to the Constitution, but that's okay. I'll fire on Americans if you'll just give me a seat at the table. When does it end, people? It ends when we demand it ends and take steps to make that happen. You see, we can't just demand it. We need to take the active steps necessary to make it a reality. When you think about it, it's a dream. When you put it on paper, it's a plan. And there's a big difference. That is why everyone in the Tea Party, the Constitution Party, the Libertarian Party, civic-minded organizations, the Veterans of Foreign Wars, all these VFW halls, why aren't you guys poking around amongst yourselves trying to find viable candidates? And we're not just talking about the federal government here, we're talking about the state government. You don't have to send somebody to Washington. How about just sending somebody up to Jefferson City? How about the evisceration of the EPA? And look, the EPA, we can't get rid of the EPA, we're going to have dirty water. Okay, great. Here's what we can do. We can write a 5-page rule sheet. Here's what it says. If you get caught polluting the water, your CEO goes to prison. You want to see how fast that stuff stops?
Pretty quick.
All you got to do is say the CEO goes to prison for a 20-year window, and I guarantee you he will be the watchdog to make sure it doesn't happen. But you can't sit there and say, well, we'll investigate him, and we'll hold committee hearings, and we'll fine them a few $1 billion. Because they made $50 billion polluting, so $2 billion is a cheap payoff.
Yeah, it's just the cost of doing business.
That's the problem, people. So what you need to do is say, if you're the CEO of Corporation XYZ and you get caught dumping toxins into our water, we're going to put you in prison. And we're going to put you in prison and your entire executive management team for a 20-year period. You want to see how fast those folks toe the line? You would have the cleanest water, the cleanest air overnight. We're going to be back in just a minute.
Fox News Radio, I'm Lillian Wu. The former government contractor who revealed NSA secrets has been charged with espionage and theft of government property but Edward Snowden thought to be hiding out in Hong Kong.
Hong Kong's police commissioner made brief comments saying only the case will be dealt with according to law. He ignored questions about local reports that Snowden is now under police protection there. Hong Kong's legal system is independent from China's, but Beijing can intervene in defense or diplomatic cases, and at least one Hong Kong lawmaker is urging it to do that to protect Snowden.
Fox News Radio's Alistair Wanklin. A computer glitch grounding 57 Southwest Airlines flight late last night, finally saying overnight.
Their system did just go back up, so they are trying to update everything as soon as possible.
A spokesperson saying 14 flights were canceled today because crews were not able to get to airports in time for scheduled takeoffs. Fox News, we report, you decide.
I'd like to thank our sponsor, Wits End Classic Barbershop, who is the sponsor of our telephone lines this morning. They're located on the square in West Plains. It's Wits End Classic Barbershop. Thanks to our friends over at West Plains Pawn and Gun. You can find them on the web at westplainspawn.com. They can be reached at 417-256-3000, and they're located on Route 160, about a mile past Walmart on the right-hand side. 400 guns undercover. Pizza Hut, our friends down there on Porter Wagoner Boulevard. They have an outstanding lunch menu with salad, pizza, and pasta. Excellent opportunity for you to have a great lunch and eat well and something tasty. Our friends over at the Battery Station at 303 Washington Avenue. You can find them on the web at batterystation.com. Telephone 417-257-7799. Our friends over at Ozark Mountain Self-Reliance can be found on the web at ozarkmtnselfreliance.com. My friend Brian there can be reached at 870-492-4030. They're located a half mile east of Walmart at 3225 Route 62, Mountain Home. My friend Mary over at Chantilly's Artisan Bakery, the best damn bakery in 100 miles. She's right off the square in West Plains at 2 Evans Arcade, and you can reach her at 255-2253. And my friend Bill Stone over at Stone Construction. If you're considering doing remodeling, custom or new construction, or anything light commercial, give Bill a call and have him bid on your project at 293-0116.
I had this illness that really made me powerless over alcohol, and that insisted that I got drunk. And so I got drunk. It doesn't have anything to do with trying to control it. An alcoholic who picks up the first drink will pick up the second drink. I can't say to anyone, no, don't drink. But I can say that when you decide you don't want to drink, come to AA. The door to AA is always open. Alcoholics Anonymous. It works. Look us up. Check your phone book, newspaper, or AA.org.
Are you looking to save money? Did you know that in the last 20 years, interest rates have never been this low? That's why you should make the smart call today to West Plains Savings and Loan to start your home mortgage. Just imagine how much money you'll save. Key word is save, as in savings and loan. Your loan starts here and stays here. Never would it be sold to a secondary lender. Call today, 256-3042. That's 256-3042. West Plains Savings and Loan. Equal housing lender, member FDIC.
For the Point Weather Center, for this morning, a partly cloudy sky, mostly sunny through the day with a slight chance for a thunderstorm, high 88. Partly cloudy tonight, low 68. Plenty of sunshine both tomorrow and Monday, the high each day 88. For Tuesday, it's going to be mostly sunny with a high near 90. I'm staff meteorologist Jim Rinaldi, and for more information, visit my1071thepoint.com.
Complete service and satisfaction is the Earl's Dodge Jeep difference from all the other dealers in the Ozarks. Hello, I'm Janet, and I invite you to come check out our new and pre-owned on the lot at Earl's Dodge Jeep on North Highway 63 across from the fairgrounds in West Plains, where we go out of our way to make you happy. That means doing what it takes to make sure you're satisfied with your total package on your new purchase, which means taking care of you after the sale. It all adds up at Earl's Dodge Jeep, where buying a vehicle is as simple as it should be.
You see, America, the time has come for us to declare our nation is our nation again. And we can no longer idly sit back and allow others to determine our future, our destiny. We can no longer allow fate to rule. We must make our own destiny. It's not enough to say, I'm going to call my senator. I'm going to call my congressman. I'm going to write a letter. It's not enough to just show up for work like you, by saying, I'm voting. That is what voting is. You're showing up on time for work. That's expected of you. But when you get to work, you've got a job to do. And that job requires your involvement. It requires your perception. It requires your input. It requires more than that you just appear and stand there like a log. You've got to be active and participatory in your own future. No one is a better advocate for you than you. And failing to see the reality of what's going on around you will not make this any better, will not make this situation improve. Every one of us knows what needs to be done, without fail. Those that don't see that are not worthy of wasting our time on. I'm okay with trying to wake others up, but we can't spend our time waking others up while we fail to plan for what we know to come. That's a foolish game, and we will lose. I'm calling on Americans of all stripes. I would like to see the Tea Parties. I would like to see all of the independent. I would like to see men of courage, men of belief, men of conviction. I'd like to see full-page ads taken out, paid for by citizens, that say, we are seeking candidates for the new Republic of the United States of America. Men of courage, men of conviction, men of no compromise. Men and women who understand our Constitution and are willing to live and die by it. Men without skeletons in their closet. Men who are willing to step up to the plate and do the hard work to bring this nation back to rights. That, people, is exactly what is necessary for this nation to sustain. For this nation to be brought back on course. For us to have an opportunity to keep this republic alive. The patient is dying. Urgent, massive care is required. That means the patient is going to need 24 hours, 7 day a week, 365 day a year monitoring in intensive care until that patient, the United States of America, is out of the woods. That means we need round-the-clock nurses and doctors monitoring every aspect of the vital signs of that patient. And when the slightest blip occurs on the screen, we need to take corrective action immediately. But we can't do it while the infection is present in the body. The infection we have now present in the body lives in Washington, D.C., breathes poison and toxins. They're killing the body. We need to excise the cancer, excise the disease, remove it, and we may have to remove some organs that are vital. We may have to transplant a lung. We may have to transplant a heart. But there's no other way to save the patient's life. The patient lays on the table before us. The disease is rampant throughout his system. The patient is dying, and it is up to you and many other doctors, to put your heads together and figure out how to save this patient. Here's a brief and quick plan. You start by doing an immediate search to replace those organs which have been so deteriorated by the disease that they are no longer functional. You find clean, new, spare parts. And you replace the heart, you replace the lungs, you replace the kidney. You transplant a clean, fresh, new lung, a clean, fresh, new kidney. And you monitor this patient with care. True, deep caring. You monitor every blip on that screen. And when the blood pressure rises, you take corrective action immediately. But if we're unwilling to do that, if we're willing to do less, we have no hope. We have no hope of restoring that which all of us knew, felt, understood, and frankly, nurtured. Our nation is in the depths of depravity, and we are in the last stages, the last gasps of freedom. The death rattle can be heard by anyone willing to unstopper their ears. Do you not see it? Do you not hear it? Do you not get it? I'm not saying I'm some paragon who's got all the right answers. I mean, some people may well be able to shoot it full of holes. But I can tell you this. I haven't heard a better solution. I keep hearing, well, work within the system. The system is too far gone. You can't take a diseased heart that has stopped beating and make it beat again. You can't take a lung which is deflated and sliced and perforated and make it breathe again. You can't take a liver which is so corrupted, so diseased, that it's hardened, and make it filter again. You can replace it. Yes, it's dramatic. Yes, it changes everything. But what we have now is sure and certain death. This patient will die without our immediate and massive intervention. This patient will die. And on this patient, we have hung all of our hopes, all of our dreams. On this patient, we have put our lives on the line. On this patient, we have put the lives of our children on the line. How dare we be too frightened to take the right necessary steps to save this patient? It's not optional, people. This is triage. It's emergency services. We are in an emergency care situation. The time for mitigation is done. the time for half measures and half steps. That time is gone. We'll be right back.
The Battery Station in West Plains is your headquarters for getting and being prepared. Natural disasters, civil unrest, personal and family protection, long-term sustenance, and most importantly, peace of mind. Berkey bottles and home-sized water purification systems, survival food, MREs, freeze-dried food, survival knives, lanterns, ammunition, military sleep system, and of course, batteries of all shapes and sizes. Take charge of your own survival and security. The Battery Station, 303 Washington in West Plains, 417-257-7799 or batterystation.com.
Last time on the Dennis Miller Show.
The shorthanded Antioch Police Department in the Bay Area is now enlisting the help of garbage collectors and mail carriers to help them spot crimes. This explains the high-profile busts last night of Oscar the Grouch and Mr. McFeely. Hey, you kids in Vice, keep your eye out for Cookie Monster, or CM.
Weekdays from 9 till noon, it's the Dennis Miller Zone on the Ozarks Best News Talk 107.1.
Numerous economists and financial experts agree the time to take advantage of the government program Home Equity Conversion, commonly referred to as reverse mortgage, is now. Why? Because interest rates are low and money readily available. This government program is for seniors 62 and older and provides for you the opportunity to live the rest of your life in the home you own. You know, this program, good as it is, may or may not be for you, but in order to make a good decision for yourself and family, get the facts by calling the Center for Sound Consumer Advice for your free consumer protection guides. There's absolutely no cost or obligation. This is a public service free to any consumer that calls 800-868-9960. 800-866-9960. 800-868-9960.
You know, Mike said at the beginning of our first segment that he had proof of reincarnation, and he's asked me to read this, and I'm going to do so. This is direct out of the works of Daniel Webster. It was a speech delivered by Webster on the 12th of October in 1835 in Boston. And he was presented with a vase by citizens, I guess, as a tributary presentation. And I suspect I know where Mike is going with this. And I'm going to say in advance that I am no Daniel Webster. But I'm going to read it to you anyway because it's so eloquent and so appropriate for our time that each of us should be taking this statement to heart and really sitting down and analyzing how this fits in with our own mind and our own presentation. I disdain altogether the character of an uncommitted man. I am committed, fully committed to the full extent of all that I am and all that I hope, to the Constitution of the country, to its love and reverence, to its defense and maintenance, to its warm commendation to every American heart, and to its vindication and just praise before all mankind. And I am committed against everything which in my judgment may weaken, endanger, or destroy it. I am committed against the encouragement of local parties and local feelings. I am committed against all fostering of anti-national spirit. I am committed against the slightest infringement of the original compromise on which the Constitution was founded. I am committed against any and every derangement of the power of the several departments of the government, against any derogation from the constitutional authority of Congress, and especially against all extension of executive power. And I am committed against any attempt to rule the free people of this country by the power and the patronage of the government itself. I am committed, fully and entirely committed, against making the government the people's master. These, gentlemen, are my opinions. I have purposely avowed them with the utmost frankness. They are not the sentiments of the moment, but the result of much reflection and of some experience in the affairs of the country. I believe them to be such sentiments as are alone compatible with the permanent prosperity of the country or the long continuance of its union. And now, gentlemen, having thus solemnly avowed these sentiments and these convictions, if you should find me hereafter to be false to them, or to falter in their support, I now conjure you, by all the duty you owe your country, by all your hopes of her prosperity and renown, by all your love for the general cause of liberty throughout the world, I conjure you that, renouncing me as a recreant, you yourselves shall go on, right on, straight forward, in maintaining with your utmost zeal and with all your power the true principles of the best, the happiest, the most glorious constitution of a free government, with which it has pleased Providence in any age to bless any of the nations of the earth. People, that is a personal commitment. And I don't think, Webster was well known for his ability to articulate in words that which everyone felt. And I've got to ask you, what is your commitment? Are you committed? Are you committed against everything which may weaken and endanger and destroy this nation? Are you committed against the encouragement of local parties? Are you committed against fostering anti-national spirit? I can give you 100 examples of that. Supporting terrorists overseas with our money. How insane is that? Supporting those who profess to hate us publicly. Is that not fostering anti-national spirit? I am committed against the slightest infringement of the original compromise on which the Constitution was founded. That is the most powerful sentence in this entire speech. Because, you see, those men took the time and they had the courage to face out their differences then. They discussed the pros and the cons at length. They already made the hard compromises. We can only compromise further away at this point. You see, that Constitution is the foundational pillar. That's the center pillar. That's the strongest piece that holds up the whole roof. Anything that we do to that pillar can only do damage. That compromise was already made with full knowledge, wisdom, and understanding. And anything that we attempt to do to further compromise that pillar only weakens it. And we cannot afford to weaken it. The pillar, the compromise of the Constitution was clear. We give a little bit of delegated authority to the federal government. We delegate the vast majority of power to the states themselves. And we balance that by the compromise of the Bill of Rights, by allowing the individual the greatest level of freedom and input. That's the great compromise, folks. It's already been done. We settled and hashed out this thing a long time ago. To now capitulate to special interests who want all these other nefarious ideas and opinions, civil justice, social justice. Our foundational document stated we're all equal, but it doesn't guarantee equality of money, equality of opportunity, equality of brain power. You have to be willing to go out there and take that. Work at it. Some of us are brilliant in math. Some of us are brilliant at writing. Some of us are brilliant at invention and science. We're not all equal. We're all equal under the law, but we're not all equal in terms of our capability. And we've lost sight of that founding principle, that the hard compromises between what's good for the people and the basic foundations we have to give to government to govern and create a society that is functional, those were already made. Anything we do now can only work to damage that pillar. That pillar has been honed. It's been sharpened. It's been polished. It has no cracks. It has no weaknesses. But by sitting there and saying, well, we can improve on that, if we just make this little mark over here, if we cut this little design in it, you're weakening it. And you're weakening the pillar that holds up the roof of liberty and freedom for you, the individual, for us, the collective society, for the functionality of government. What we have now is this dysfunctional morass that is so big and so obtrusive and so invasive, it can't get out of its own way. What we have is a group of people who are conspiring to chip away and put their own visage, their own image, and chip it in, mark it in, carve it in to this pillar. And every time that you strike that pillar, every time that you mark that pillar with a chisel, you take away some of its strength, some of its soundness. You take away some of the material that makes it strong and solid, that gives it the strength to hold up that roof. And mark my words, at some point in time, we will have chipped away at this until it is so weakened, it is so compromised, that it collapses. And on that day, the roof of liberty and freedom will fall. Your job is to defend that pillar.
We are the Ozarks' best news talk, KBMV Birch Tree.